Why you must learn to live coldly after 70. 6 powerful reasons for peace and strength. Elderly, old, have you been kind your whole life only to become an easy target? As we get older, we're often advised to remain warm-hearted, patient, and forgiving. But the reality is that if you don't learn to adopt a colder and more detached approach, you may end up feeling drained, manipulated, and exhausted. This video presents 6 compelling reasons why living with a colder demeanor after 70 is about protecting your peace rather than being harsh. Each of these 6 insights is based on a common realization many of us have later in life. Being overly available, overly emotional, and overly agreeable can gradually erode the life we have painstakingly built. The lessons you will hear today are not about shutting your heart. They focus on making wise choices about where to open it. They teach you how to give without feeling drained, how to care without being overwhelmed, and how to stay kind without being taken advantage of. Stay tuned until the end, as one of the concluding points may change your perspective on the rest of your life. It's something most people only recognize when it's too late. Once you grasp it, you'll wish someone had shared it with you sooner. Let's begin. First, emotional detachment safeguards your peace. As you age, your peace becomes increasingly valuable. One effective way to protect it is by releasing the emotional ties that once seemed essential. Emotional detachment doesn't imply that you cease to care. Rather, it signifies that you begin to select where your care is directed. After 70, not every disagreement warrants your energy. Not every family dispute requires your involvement. Not every hurtful comment necessitates a reply. You have the right to prevent your heart from being drawn in every direction, especially from those who expect more from you than they are willing to give. Sometimes we confuse love with obligation, but true love doesn't require you to lose sleep over someone else's chaos. It doesn't demand that you fix what was never yours to carry. When you start to detach emotionally, you are actually drawing a quiet line between what affects you and what doesn't. That line becomes the boundary that protects your sanity. You can still care about someone without absorbing their pain. You can listen without providing a solution. You can be present without feeling drained. Take Grayson, for example. He's 81 and used to be the emotional rock for his extended family. If there was an issue, a disagreement, a hurt feeling, or a missed birthday, he was the first one called. For years, he responded immediately, tried to mediate, and attempted to smooth things over. However, he began to realize that his own days were becoming shorter, and so much of his energy was being spent on problems that weren't his. These days, Grayson listens, but he doesn't fix. He supports, but he doesn't chase. In doing so, he's found a peace that had been missing for decades. Living with emotional detachment means accepting that not every battle is yours to fight. It means walking away from drama, even when you're invited in. It means choosing silence over stress, distance over damage. When you live like this, people might say you've become cold, but what they really mean is you've stopped being convenient. You've stopped being a sponge for their emotions and started being the protector of your own. And that shift, that's where. Freedom begins when you stop carrying everyone else's emotional baggage. Your own path becomes lighter, your mornings feel calmer, and your nights grow quieter. That peace, the kind that doesn't waver with every text or tremble at every phone call, is worth everything. Number 2, saying no without guilt preserves your energy. After 70, your time and energy are not just valuable, they're sacred. One of the strongest forms of self-respect you can practice is the ability to say no without drowning in guilt. For decades, many of us we are conditioned to be accommodating, to agree and say yes even when we truly mean no. However, this way of living can leave you exhausted, depleted, and quietly resentful. Living authentically means recognizing that you are not here to fulfill everyone else's needs. This isn't selfish, it's a matter of survival. Each time you agree to something you don't want to do, you're effectively saying no to what you truly desire, such as rest, peace, or simply enjoying nothingness. You have a finite number of days and you have the right to choose how to spend them. You are not obligated to dedicate your time to everyone. Invitation. You are not obligated to give your attention to every request, nor should you expend your energy on those who do not value it. Consider Evelyn, 76, who dedicated much of her adult life to being the yes person in her family. Need a ride to the airport? She would go. Hosting Thanksgiving? Even when she was exhausted, she would do it. Babysitting at the last minute? She would cancel her own plans. However, last year, something changed within her. She started to realize that her constant agreement had quietly robbed her of years of happiness. Now, Evelyn embraces the power of saying no, and she expresses it kindly, firmly, and without the need for explanation. And you know what happened? The world kept spinning. The people who truly cared adapted, and she finally found some peace. You don't need a reason to say no. You don't have to justify, over-explain, or soften your boundaries for the comfort of others. The people who love and respect you won't require a detailed excuse. They'll understand. As for those who don't, they've been benefiting from your lack of boundaries for far too long. There's a quiet kind of strength in that, a straightforward no, not a cold shoulder or a bitter refusal, but a clear, steady, unapologetic no. That strength creates a life filled with space, space for rest, reflection, joy, and health. When you cease to feel guilty for protecting yourself, your energy starts to return. You find yourself waking up with less tension, going to bed with fewer regrets, and filling your days with things that nourish you, not just others. Living with distance doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care wisely. You prioritize yourself first so that you have something left to give. And when you learn to say, approach this from a place of love, not fear, and you will begin to reclaim the life that has been waiting for you all along. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. If you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss any videos. Your support enables us to keep creating quality content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, selective empathy protects your mental health. There's a subtle shift that occurs after 70. You start to understand that while empathy is a wonderful quality, giving it too freely and too often can gradually undermine your own mental health. Selective empathy isn't about shutting down your emotions. It's about choosing where to direct your heart, how frequently, and for what duration. Not everyone merits the full extent of your concern, and not every issue is yours to bear emotionally. When you permit yourself to deeply feel for everyone, you turn into a vessel for their pain, their fear, and their chaos. And over time passes without you even noticing, and you begin to bear it as if it were your own. That unseen weight manifests as fatigue, sadness, anxiety, and even physical illness. People seek you out because they know you care, but they also know you'll take on more than you ought to. Living with emotional distance means understanding that empathy has its boundaries, and yours must be respected as well. Let me share a story about Theodore. He's 83 now and one of the kindest individuals you could ever encounter. However, for decades, Theodore would absorb the pain of those around him. Friends who were struggling. Financially, neighbors were in conflict, and family members had failing relationships. He carried it all as if it were his personal mission to fix, heal, and hold it until it passed. But eventually his health began to suffer. He wasn't sleeping, his blood pressure soared, and he started to lose the lightness in his spirit. One day his doctor said something that resonated with him. "You can care, Theodore, but you don't have to collapse." That day he gave himself permission to care less, just enough to remain kind, but not so much that he lost himself. Selective empathy signifies listening without truly absorbing. It represents providing support without compromising your own peace. It involves allowing others to manage their own responsibilities and consequences without intervening to rescue them. When someone is perpetually in crisis, constantly in need, and always tugging at your emotions, they are not seeking partnership. They are looking for someone to offload their burdens onto. After 70, you have the right to say no more. As you begin to filter who has access to your empathy, you start to perceive life in a new light. You become less reactive and less overwhelmed. You begin to create more mental space for what truly matters: your health, your joy, your hobbies, your legacy, and those who genuinely care about you. They will understand your boundaries and not question them. There is grace in this kind of distance, a quiet, protective grace. You are not shutting people out. You are keeping your mind clear, your emotions stable, and your spirit intact. You are allowing yourself the space to be happy without constantly being weighed down by everyone else's sorrow. And that space, that's where your mental clarity resides. Health begins to flourish once more. Number 4, protecting your time enhances self-worth. Time becomes sacred after 70. Each hour holds greater significance. Every day feels more precious. And every moment has the potential to uplift or deplete you. This is why one of the most crucial things you must stop relinquishing so readily is your time. Protecting your time isn't an act of selfishness. It's about truly recognizing its value. When you live with detachment, you're not driving people away. You're simply no longer dedicating your hours to unworthy pursuits. People who don't deserve your time. Consider how frequently you've agreed to something only to regret it in the moment. Enduring conversations that brought you no joy. Completing errands that weren't your responsibility. Participating in gatherings that made you feel more isolated than connected. It's simple to fall into the belief that being generous with your time equates to being a good person. However, being intentional with your time, that's what truly reflects wisdom. Take Clara, for instance. At 78, she used to fill her calendar with every invitation that came her way. Church meetings, family obligations, and social clubs came her way. She was always out, always involved. But she started noticing something at the end of those long days. She didn't feel fulfilled. She felt depleted. One day, she sat down with her planner and asked herself a simple question. What here actually brings me joy? The answer, not much. So she started saying no, clearing space, and choosing her moments with care. These days, Clara's schedule is lighter, but her spirit is fuller. Your time should reflect your values. It should nourish your body. Take care of your heart. If it doesn't feel right, it's perfectly fine to step back. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't require permission. You are not obligated to respond to every call, text, favor, or event. Those who genuinely respect you will understand that your time is valuable and will never make you feel guilty for protecting it. You'll also begin to see which relationships are unbalanced. The ones who only reach out when they need something, or those who never inquire about your well-being, but always expect you to listen. By safeguarding your time, you illuminate the truth about these connections. What has been draining you? Once you see it clearly, it's impossible to go back. There is peace in a quiet day with no obligations. There is healing in choosing how to spend your morning instead of allowing someone else to dictate it. When you stop letting others consume your time, you begin to reclaim your worth. Because every time you say, I'm not available for that, what you're really saying is, I value myself. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, saying no protects your personal boundaries. There's a certain strength that comes with age, not necessarily in the body, but in the spirit. One of the clearest signs of that? Strength is the ability to say no firmly, kindly, and without guilt. After 70, your personal boundaries become more than just preferences. They become shields. Shields that guard your peace, your dignity, and your freedom to live life on your own terms. Living with clarity means understanding that protecting your space isn't rude. It's essential. Too many people confuse kindness with availability. If you've always been dependable, always the one others could count on, then over time you might have felt the slow erosion of your own needs. You say yes when you really want to say no. You agree to help even when your body's pleading for rest. You put up with behavior that crosses the line just to maintain harmony. But peace that sacrifices your boundaries isn't true peace. It's quiet surrender. Let me tell you about Miles. He's 81 now, and for most of his life, he was what people referred to as the rock of the family. Reliable, calm, always saying yes. However, over time, he began to realize that his generosity was not being respected. It was being expected. If he ever declined an invitation, people were surprised. If he voiced a concern, they brushed it off. One day, Louise stopped answering calls that only came with demands. He started saying no, even if it disappointed someone. And something incredible happened. He felt free. Not angry, not bitter, just free. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks. You choose who gets in and how far they're allowed to go. Saying no doesn't mean you're cold-hearted. It means you're finally protecting what you've spent a lifetime building. Your energy, your values, your peace. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. People quickly learn who they can and cannot take advantage of. When you start to say no with confidence, you'll notice that the users begin to fade away, and that's a blessing, not a loss. You also start to see that your boundaries are a reflection of self-respect. You're not here to entertain guilt. You're not here to fulfill every request or solve every problem. You're here to enjoy the years you've earned, and that means establishing clear lines and standing firm by them. Courage in this kind of coldness is not about pushing others away, but rather about drawing you back to yourself. At this stage of life, protecting your boundaries is not optional. It's survival. Every time you honor those boundaries, you reclaim another piece of your power. Number 6, detaching from outcomes brings true peace. There is a quiet strength that emerges when you stop trying to control everything. After 70, one of the most liberating things you can do is let go of the need to manage how others behave. Situations unfold and people react to your choices. Living coldly isn't about indifference. It's about emotional clarity. It's the understanding that your peace no longer depends on things going your way, and that in itself is a kind of mastery. When we're younger, we pour energy into things we can't control. We try to fix people who don't want to change. We overthink our words, hoping they'll land just right. We dwell on mistakes, regrets, and what-ifs, but with time it becomes clear. No amount of worry has ever improved an outcome. No amount. Overfunctioning has never led to lasting peace. Detachment isn't about giving up. It's about stepping back to allow yourself to breathe. Lillian, now 84, used to constantly worry about her children's decisions. She would lose sleep over their finances, relationships, and choices she couldn't agree with. But one day she realized that her worry wasn't helping them. It was hurting her. So she made a decision. She would offer advice when asked, love them unconditionally, and trust that they would figure things out. Since then, her mind is quieter, her body feels lighter, and she smiles more. Not because life is perfect, but because she stopped trying to control what never belonged to her. When you detach from outcomes, you start to reclaim your time, your energy, and your joy. You no longer feel the need to chase approval, fix everyone's problems, or ensure everything runs smoothly. You learn to let conversations end without resolution. You allow others to be wrong about you. You stop explaining yourself where it's not needed. This doesn't make you cold-hearted. It makes you wise, signifies that your emotional state is no longer dictated by the actions of others. Whether someone expresses gratitude, behaves politely, or is even present, you remain grounded and steady. You no longer spiral into chaos because someone else is in turmoil. This is what it means to live with emotional independence. At this point, peace becomes your main focus. Peace is not achieved through control. It is attained through surrender. Not the surrender of your values, but the surrender of the outcomes. You approach situations with love, honesty, and effort, but you let go of the need for results is evident. That kind of release isn't easy, but it is transformative. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend subscribing and turning on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating quality content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. For final thoughts as we wrap up this video, take a moment to reflect on what we've explored. Living fully after 70 does not imply closing off your heart or navigating life with barriers. It signifies opting for clarity instead of confusion, peace rather than people-pleasing, and establishing boundaries to prevent burnout. It's about prioritizing your well-being in your choices, not because you've ceased to care, but because you've begun to care more about what truly matters. What resonated with you the most? Which of these 6 reasons aligns with your current situation? Perhaps it was the notion of stepping back from overgiving, or maybe it was the strength of silence, or perhaps it was that profound realization about letting go of what you cannot control. Whatever it was, hold on to it. These aren't merely concepts, they are tools. Tools you can begin utilizing today to live with greater strength, peace, and authenticity. There is a unique beauty that emerges when you cease the pursuit and begin to make choices, choosing what resonates with your values, deciding when to engage and when to withdraw, determining how to allocate your valuable time, and who gets to share it with you. Living this way it may seem simple at first. It takes courage. But with every boundary you establish, every pause you take before responding, and every moment you prioritize your needs, it becomes easier. More importantly, it becomes profoundly rewarding. This phase of life isn't about winding down, it's about refining. You no longer need to prove anything. You've earned your place. You've experienced life, learning, losing, and loving. Now you have the power to choose what truly matters and what doesn't. Thank you for being with us today. We would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you today. We learned something valuable and how you intend to apply it in your life. Your thoughts matter to us, so please feel free to share them. Reading your comments provides us with tremendous motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support enables us to keep creating quality content to inform and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.